This by far is the best Furbish deck I have ever made. Hey there, welcome to the Kingdoms Trading Card Game YouTube channel. My name's Tyler and thank you so much for clicking on this video. In this video, I'm going to be jumping into a deck profile of my latest Furbish deck that I've built, and I believe that this is the best one I have built to this date. Let's go ahead and jump into the video. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into the deck profile video. You can see I have the Scream card sleeves, and I'm actually going to be doing a video eventually on my favorite card sleeves that I currently have. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the content of the video. I'm going to go ahead for this video, separate my Sacreds, and I'll take out my Magicka Health Tracker and my Sacred Health Tracker that I put in every starter deck. Whoops, and I'm just totally bashing the camera. Here we go. Okay, so for starters, I run 3 council board members in this deck. This is kind of the engine to, especially once you get in phase 2 and especially phase 3, this is a good way to free play some cards. So this card in itself isn't very good, but running 3 of these is very effective. The next card that I run 3 copies of, again, this is a Furbish build, so all the cards in this deck are exclusively Furbish, is Judge Guard. This card is great because, yes, it costs 7 and it's a phase 2, but it does have silence. It's a 500/500, so it's not terrible, which it's actually higher stats for a phase 2 than typically. And then this starts to compound on itself because it makes other Mriff cards cost -1 Magicka. So if you can start to bring these out, this is pretty good. And so again, I run 3 copies of this. Next, I run 2 copies of Furbish Counselor. This is the Mosaic version, which is why this one looks different. But this is just a great card because it gives you some Magicka, gives you 200 attack, and this card can protect itself, which is helping set up for more powerful plays in the future. But then on top of that, this is a great way to maybe give a buff, an early attack buff to a card earlier in the game. So I run 2 copies of those. Next, I run 2 converters. This card is great, especially when you're playing against someone that is exclusively playing with 1 kingdom. This is a great way to stop a play that your opponent might have, or if you know what kingdom you're playing against, this is great because if that card is not yet out on the field, especially if you're sending your opponent to the next phase on their next turn, you can play this card, choose a battle card that your opponent has of the same kingdom that you know what card they have in their hand, and that can prevent them from calling that. And again, the whole goal of this deck is to try to stall your opponent out and then strike when you are ready. The next card, and this is kind of one of the heavier hitters in the deck, is the Light Warden. This is a phase 3, cost 9, but it has 800 attack, silence 2, and it gives other battle cards a -100/-100 your opponent's battle cards. So this is a great, this is an excellent card. It does cost a lot, but I think for all the effects and abilities it has, even as I've continued to work on the game more and more, and I'm trying to refine how much I want to chart or how expensive it costs to play some cards, I think this is a justifiable cost at 9 Magicka. And so this is just a great way to kind of get yourself back in the game if you're starting to fall behind. Next is Prison Guard. I run 2 copies of these, and the reason why I only run 2 is because this card is okay, but it's just really good to have some phase 1 cheap drops, and it has silence, so it's just kind of starting to set the tone for the game. And especially if you're able to play Furbish Counselor, this is a great way just to make this card just a wee bit better and maybe get over especially some heavier defensive cards. Next, this is another important card to this deck, is Furbish Temple Judge. I would argue, or I would contend, that this is maybe one of the more important cards in the game. It's a phase 2, which is even better. It does cost 9, so it's a wee bit more on the expensive side, but it does have silence 3, and again, it does -100/-100 to all of your opponent's battle cards. So if you can get 2 of these out, that really starts to compound on itself. But this is just kind of a great, again, setting the tone, setting the pace of the game as you're trying to set up your pieces that you need. But I think it's balanced out because of the cost of the card. Next, I run 2 I Like the Connectors. Now this card came out in set 2. I Like the Connector is one of the more significant people in the Kingdom of Furbish, and there's a lot on this card, and there's probably a lot of you that aren't familiar with this card, so let me go ahead and tell you what it does. It costs 8 Magicka, and it's a Sacred phase 3 card, and it's a 600/600, so this card is okay. But again, I was trying to build this deck exclusively with Furbish cards. I was trying to make the best Furbish deck that I can make possible. And so I think this card is actually pretty good in this deck. It has an impact ability. search your fortress for 3 magicka, search your fortress for a Furbish battle card. While on the field, any Marif battle cards that are killed from battle go back to your hand rather than the graveyard. All Furbish spells cost -2 magicka. And then the remaining part of this just has to deal with other Furbish cards, Ilag's Family and Ilag's Apprentice, which those cards are not very good, so there was no point in putting those in this deck. But this is just a great way to kind of keep yourself in the game if you're able to get this card out. It's kind of like your last ditch effort to stay in the game, though you are spending 8 magicka. And if you're in Sacred Phase 3 and you need a way to get back in the game, you don't really want to spend all your magicka on one battle card unless it really can do some damage. And unfortunately, I don't think this card can fully do that, but I still like having 2 of these, and it does help the deck perform rather well. Next, I only run 1 of these, and this is actually the foil edition of this card, Washaways. This is a board wipe, and this is great to kind of reset the field. If you have 4 battle cards on the field and your opponent has 5, this immediately becomes a 900, and all those cards are sent to the graveyard. So this is just a great way to get back in the game. I'm not sure how amazing this card is, but every time I have seen it used, it's been used very effectively, and it's really helped someone not necessarily win the game, but at least stay in the game for a little bit longer. And so I run 1 copy of Washaways. Sorry for continually hitting the camera. Next, in terms of neutral battle cards, and this is a 40 card deck played in the Allegiance format, or Unity format, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting my terms. I run 3 Temple Teacher. I am starting to agree more and more that I think Temple Teacher is the better card compared to Outpost Tower, and that's for a couple reasons. One, this card only costs 4 rather than 5. And then also too, it gives you versatility if you want to draw a card or give a card a bonus. And so this is great because if you're able to draw this card in your first couple turns, it's helping you dig into your deck, or if you see that you have early advantage, you can maybe try to make a card more powerful, because that can happen a lot. Sometimes you can have a card start to generate some attack and health early in the game, and then the more your opponent ignores it, that card can actually become a problem later on. That's why I run 3 Temple Teachers. And the few times that I've played with this deck, 1v1, and also in some group games, 3 player and 4 player, this deck has performed very well. I do run 2 Ula the Rebels. Right now you are only allowed to run a max of 2 of these cards, and it might actually come down to 1. This card is just a great card. It sets your opponent back a little bit, and it definitely gives you a good advantage. So 2 Ula the Rebels. I run 1 Time Scribe because this is a staple in Kingdoms. It's a great way to buy yourself 1 other turn. This card ends your opponent's attack phase. Then this card came out in set 2.5. This card is called Wheat. For those of you that aren't familiar with this card, I'll go ahead and read what it does. It says, if an opponent calls a battle card to the field with an effect, which effect is just any standard text, not the bold font, you may send this card from your hand to the graveyard and cancel that effect and destroy that card, and your opponent loses that magic. So this is a great hand trap card, and allows you to deal with some pesky cards, and you're only allowed 1 of these in your deck. Now going on to the spells, again, because this is a Furbish deck and the whole goal is to use silence and stall your opponent and kind of dictate the flow of the game, I run 3 silences, which simply silence 3 is the ability of this spell, and I do have one of the mosaic versions of the spell, and so I run 3 of those. Next, I run Community Assembly, and I actually run 3 of these cards. This card gives you a second turn. You are not allowed to attack on that second turn. Now, the reason why I really like this card is because it allows you to set up some really good turns, but also too, if you're really struggling to get the cards that you need, or you're worried your opponent's gonna jump ahead of you, this is a great way to maybe give yourself a second chance to find some cards that you need, and then make your opponent not be able to do anything. And so I run 3 Community Assemblies. And actually that kind of leads right into why I run 3 of these next cards. This is a neutral spell called Rest from Warfare. And this card says no players may attack their next turn. Cast this during your prepare phase. You may not attack this turn. So what's perfect is Community Assembly already says that you can't attack on your second turn. So one thing I love to do is take my turn, play Community Assembly, and then I start my next turn by playing Rest from Warfare. And so now I'm already reinforcing that I can't attack, but now my opponent can't attack. So I've essentially gotten 2 turns for free, and they haven't been able to do anything against me. And so that's why I run 3 Rest from Warfares. Just for some good hitting power, I do run 1 Lawful Knight. This deck has the ability to generate a lot of magicka, and a lot of the cards that you call to the field cost a lot of magicka. So even though this legend is way too expensive at 16 magicka, you do have a way to bring this out if you need to. Or if anything, it's just a card that you can send to the discard. In regards to tokens, I run 3 Master's Tables in this deck, which gives you +3 magicka initially, and then after 1 turn, you get the 4 magicka bonus. And then the hope is that you can also play Cornucopia. Cornucopia is a token that came out in the Collector's 2020 pack. And this only gives you 2 magicka, but allows you to have a 3rd token slot. So just kind of putting you a little bit more over the edge than maybe you'd be able to prior. Next, in terms of sacreds, for this deck, it's pretty typical that if you have Skylight Fountain as your sacreds, you always want to pick this as your 3rd because it's just such a good sacred. So I typically will pick that at phase 3. Out of all these other sacreds though, the one that I definitely pick every single time as my phase 2 is Trembledor Tree. This sacred, I'm still not sure how good this sacred is. I have seen it be absolutely powerful, and I have also seen it not be good at all. This sacred only has 900 health, so it's very, very weak. But it says during your end phase, all friendly Furbish battle cards on the field gain +100 attack, and that is every single turn. It also says that this sacred gains 400 health every time a Marif spell is played. There are 6 spells in this game, and with your ability to look for cards and dig through your deck, I have seen this sacred gain a significant amount of health. And +2, when you're able to silence people and silence the attacks both through your spells and your ability silence that some of your battle cards have, this sacred proves to actually be pretty good. That leaves your opponent to choose your phase 1, so they can choose the Mystic Room. It has 2300 health, gives you +2 magicka just for 1 turn. Shwal Waterfall, 2000 health, and it makes your Mirf battle cards cost 1 less. And then Local Armory, Impact 6, give all your battle cards on the field +200, +200. So honestly, between these other 3 sacreds that your opponent has to choose, I really don't like picking any of these. I mean, this one is probably the worst because it only has 1000 health, but because this deck has the ability to generate so much magicka, this can still be quite a nuisance. And so that is the deck profile for my Furbish build. I want to thank you again for watching this video. It really means a lot that you guys watch these videos and like the videos and even comment on the videos. And if you have anything you want to say, drop a comment below. Anything that I want you to know about is in the description box below. And before I end this video, I do want to end with a Bible talk. And the simple Bible talk encouragement for this is the simple fact that even though God is a God of love and He loves us and we are His children, there still is this part of us that we need to make sure we are living and we are walking down this certain path of righteousness, of holiness, of living the way that God wants us to live. And it's not because we have to earn His love. It's not because if you don't live correctly, He doesn't love you at all, but it's part of being a Christian. It's the fact that I am saved, the fact that I am a child of God makes me all the more want to serve Him and live the life that He wants me to live, because God has a lifestyle that He wants us to live that's so life-giving, and if we just choose to walk in that, we can see that it's absolutely amazing, though there can be some hard times. Again, please like and subscribe to keep in touch with the channel, and whatever time of the day that you're watching this video, I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night.